You are listening to We Saw the Devil, an investigative and conversational true crime podcast that deep dives into fascinating criminal cases that are solved, unsolved, or ongoing. From America's Lori Vallow to Germany's Armin Meiwes, we examine and discuss the world's most shocking cases. If you're enjoying the show, don't forget to follow us online. Check us out at WeSawTheDevil.com and We Saw the Devil on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And don't forget, you can become part of the show by backing us on Patreon. Hello everyone, you are listening to We Saw the Devil. This is Robin, and we have a fun episode today. Instead of continuing to explore the documents from the big FOIA dump last week, we decided to do something a little differently. If you would like to continue going over the documents, those are available pretty much everywhere on YouTube. It seems like almost every single person is going through them, so there is a wealth of information out there about them. For this episode, Brittany and I decided to do something a little different. As most of you know, there was a huge phone call that was made public in its entirety this last week, and that was a phone call between Melanie Gibb and a woman named Shari Dowdle. Shari Dowdle was a Facebook friend of Melanie, and Melanie called and they had about an hour-long conversation, and the case came up. Lori Vallow came up, Alex Cox, the children. Melanie had no idea that she was actually being recorded. It's very interesting because this appears to be the real Melanie Gibb, and it is definitely a far stretch away from the Melanie Gibb that we see caressing grapes in an orchard, in a vineyard, in her interview with Nate Eaton, and then also later on Dateline. So what we did for this episode is we dissected the two and played kind of a go fish situation. Melanie made some statements in each interview that actually completely contradict one another. More or less, she lied multiple times in each interview or switched her stories up entirely. So this episode is actually going to be an analysis of those statements, including audio clips from both interviews. But before we get into the episode, let's just get a little bit of housekeeping out of the way. You can find us at WeSawTheDevil.com, and as stated in the previous episode, we are working on that really cool filterable tool for a timeline for this case. So much has happened. There are so many players, so much information, and information continues to pour forth. So go to WeSawTheDevil.com and you will see our timeline tool where you can select a person, a state, and see all relevant events related to that person. You can find us across all social media at We Saw the Devil. And if you are loving the show, liking it, want to actually support it, maybe even come on the show as a guest or just get cool merch, swag, things like that, check out our Patreon. That's patreon.com/We Saw the Devil. This month's postcards are actually going out. So if you sign up in the next 24 hours, you will be getting this month's postcards. And then in the beginning of first week of August, we will be doing the episode related to this postcard. And last but not least, if you're also enjoying the show, please take a couple seconds out of your day to head over to iTunes and leave a 5-star review. All right, everyone. I think all of you know who's back.
Holy shit. Am I saying it's Brittany bitch right now? Did you just set me up for a it's Brittany bitch?
Do it.
It's an honor and a pleasure. It's Brittany bitch.
Thank you. That was all that I was waiting for.
I felt it even I've been waiting ever since we've actually heard from our queen the last few weeks with the whole conservatorship, whatever. This is great.
Yes. First, we have some mild housekeeping to get out of the way before we get into the meat of this episode. However, let's start out really quick with kind of a response to some of the feedback that we received from the episode this past week.
Yeah, guys, let's be clear about something. We have our opinions on the whole, what was the motive thing, right? You guys didn't like that we said money might not be the primary motive. We're not saying that money isn't a motive. We just think that in this particular situation, Melanie Gibb might have been right. This is the one time I'm going to say that. You guys know how I feel about her. But Melanie Gibb, in her interview with Nate Eaton, said that the primary motive was lust and love. And guys, that's what we think too. But money is just like a cherry on top. Isn't it always?
Money is always in the list of motivators, but I completely agree. We got a lot of comments on our previous episodes and emails as well, referring to us saying that money was not the primary, again, keyword, primary motivator. Obviously, money is always on the table when you have life insurance policies, especially very large ones, up for grabs. But here's the thing. As Brittany just said, Melanie Gibb even said it was a love and lust, ordeal. And personally, me, if you want my true and honest opinion, is that Lori Vallow truly 1000% did believe all of this. She actually did believe in the zombies. She did believe in the spiritual aspect of it. We have a lot of evidence to back this up, that for years she has been a religious zealot, more or less. She was obsessed with Julie Rowe. And guys, if you are even minutely following this case, you know how insane Julie Rowe is. So, okay?
If you have a thing for crazy, please follow Julie Rowe on TikTok.
That is my personal opinion. I think that the money was definitely the cherry on top. However, I believe that Lori Vallow 100% wanted the power from being married to someone like Chad, or being with someone like Chad, who she saw as this great, prophet almost, figure. So that's my own personal opinion. And again, we never said that money wasn't a motivator, that it just wasn't the one big prime one. That's not saying, too, that Lori has never been motivated by money. Obviously, she was and has a very long track record of doing so.
And that kind of brought us to why we have today's episode tonight. I don't know what time it is wherever you are listening to this. I hope whatever time it is, it's great. But the main reason we're talking now in this moment is this made us think, if we're agreeing with Melanie Gibb that Chad and Lori, their primary focus was lust and love. She said that in the Nate Eaton interview. And then there's this other call that came out in the last couple of days, right? With Shari. Mm-hmm. And we hear a different type of Melanie. And so Robin and I thought, let's compare notes. I went through the entire Nate Eaton interview that originally was released in 3 parts. I went through that with a fine-tooth comb and pulled out all the little different statements that she was saying in there, things that would be factual, things that had dates related to it. I noted certain statements and faces that she made, just things of interest. So you sure as shit do not need to go back and do that. We've got you. And Robin, tell me what you learned, I guess, generally speaking, by going through this phone call. What is this phone call anyways?
So yeah, in January of 2020, there was a woman who befriended Melanie Gibb on Facebook, and they had a phone call. Well, unbeknownst to Melanie Gibb, this woman, Shari Dowdle, ended up recording said call. And the full call is a little over 50 minutes, and it's literally Melanie Gibb, who believes that she's off the record. She has no idea that she's being recording, talking about the case. This call was actually fairly shocking, but also, I have to give major props to True Crime Underground yet again, guys. Again, True Crime Underground, Lori Daybell Cult Mom is the Facebook group for this. They actually published the whole call, and we have added that to our timeline on our website, and you can go to wesawthedevil.com, take a look at the timeline that we have, and that video is there as a source if you want to listen to this crazy call with Melanie Gibb.
Just set your filter for the person to Melanie Gibb, and you'll see it pop up really fast.
Another thing, too, I would like to very quickly address. So other than the money, the feedback regarding us not believing that money was a primary motivator, we always get a lot of feedback about just our general disdain of Melanie Gibb. And a lot of people are like, well, you just must not want to see Lori Vallow get convicted if you're trashing Melanie Gibb. I think at this point, Melanie Gibb has proven herself to be quite the liar. She's proven herself to be far more deeply involved than she originally admitted to being. There's also an argument, basically, that Tylee and JJ may not even have been murdered had she stepped up to the plate and come forward sooner. Don't forget that she was involved in the targeted harassment of Charles Vallow as well while he was still alive. I truly believe that when we analyze and take a look at true crime cases, that we have to turn over every rock. We have to turn over every stone. Some things are uncomfortable. No one is perfect. No one is without sin or whatever, but we have to discuss it. Charles Vallow was not a perfect person. No one was a perfect person. Even Tylee, by all accounts, family and friends and whatnot, she had some behavioral issues as well. People are three-dimensional, and we should be able to discuss that. And that's not something on this show that we're going to shy away from. Also,
we're not perfect either.
With the Jodi Arias case, right? Travis Alexander was a massive shitbag. Should he have been murdered? Absolutely not. That is horrifying.
Correct.
Same in the Chris Watts case. Shanann, I cannot imagine, to be honest with you, a likely more difficult human being to deal with than Shanann. Did she or her daughters deserve any of that? Absolutely not. It was heinous, disgusting, and he should have gotten, the death penalty, basically. But we should be able to talk about people. And so, guys, that's what we're doing with Melanie Gibbs. And I hate to tell you, but I think at this juncture, correct me if I'm wrong, Brittany, but there's plenty of evidence to give Lori Vallow the death penalty. Melanie Gibbs not included in that.
It's true. And on top of that, guys, I'm searching right now in front of me. I'm looking everywhere, and I'm coming up empty. I've no fucks to give. There's none here. I'm Robin, do you have a spare?
Behold the field in which I grow my fucks, and you will see that it is barren.
Okay. Well, there it is, guys. Sorry about that.
Yep.
Fresh out of fucks.
Fresh out. But I just had to do that little aside really quickly because this is something that, especially We Saw the Devil as a whole, the show, we're not going to give lip service and pretend that everything is hunky-dory when we're going to be real and accurate. So that is what we are going to do.
Well, I mean, mostly accurate, right? That's the other fun thing about what we do. We do a whole bunch of research. We are going off of at least 2 sources every time we put something together. Mm-hmm. But as you guys have seen with these different document dumps that have been coming out, sometimes things kind of change a little bit. And we have to change dates slightly, or more information comes out so we get the full picture. Just be cool about it, if you're not having fun, go do something fun.
All right, guys. So before we get into go fishing with these two versions of Melanie Gibbs in these 2 different interviews, again, the Shari Dowdle call is very much Melanie Gibb off the cuff. She has no idea she's being recorded. So I believe personally that this is a glimpse at the real Melanie Gibb. And then Brittany has been doing the research and will discuss basically statements that she has made in previous media interviews, in particular the long one with Nate Eaton.
Oh, yeah. The entire thing.
First, we're going to go over some news headlines over the last week. Brittany, do you want to kick us off with a grand jury?
Yeah, so this is actually kind of new. So on July 22nd, we found out that John Pryor sent in a motion for the transcripts of the entire grand jury proceedings leading to the indictment of Chad Daybell. Translation, do you guys remember that enormous list of people that came for this grand jury hearing? So John wants to see everything that was said at that time.
That list was so long and had so many really interesting people on it. I hope that eventually we will get that. I personally don't believe that it's going to be public, but I'm really hoping it will.
Be pretty cool if they did,
Pretty cool if it did. Let's see. And then let's just go over some really important dates coming up. So
that's right.
Chad has a pre-trial hearing on September 30th at 9 a.m. So that's coming up in 2 months here, a little over 2 months.
And that's just to conference between the attorneys, right?
Right, exactly. His trial is currently scheduled for November 8th through December 17th. Do you think that's going to be altered or moved or rescheduled?
I mean, I have no idea, but I feel like they have so much here to go off of. Mm-hmm. I mean, they have plenty of evidence, in my opinion. I mean, imagine all the stuff that we've seen so far. We're only seeing the iceberg that's been dropped on us the last couple of days.
Right.
I am positive there is enough that's been said behind the scenes, behind closed doors. There's things that they've been holding on to. I mean, if they felt confident enough to bring out murder charges, and I mean, they have a heavy-hitting death penalty lawyer on the case, I think they are ready for business.
I completely agree. And just the information that we've received so far that's been made public, like the leaks or the FOIA requests, FBI and the cast team has been at this for a while, pinging people. They have timelines. They had access to the burner phones. I really believe that they have a pretty clear outline and background of the players and everything that happened. And that raccoon text, guys, that raccoon text.
That's right. It could be. And I mean, who knows if it needs to go longer too. I mean, if anything's going to change, it's going to be, they need more time. And then Lori, our sweet, precious ramen noodle hair Lori is just basking away in Blackfoot and enjoying her stay at a lovely mental health facility. And we haven't seen too much of an update here outside of Mark Means being like, can I be there too? Right. And so I don't know how else to summarize that. Mark Means really wanted to like be with Lori and like talk with her and like just, hang with the doctors while she's around and just normal, totally above board lawyer stuff that you do with clients for fun.
I would pay to see that Lifetime spinoff.
Oh, same. Oh my gosh. But her pretrial conference for the lesser crimes, I believe, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So remember, guys, Lori has 2 different cases in Idaho at this time in this moment. She has a pending one, I'm assuming, pretty soon in Arizona. We'll hear more about related to Charles Vallow's murder. But for now, her next scheduled time is a pretrial conference for the lesser crimes, like the misdemeanors, and then the 2 felonies for abandonment of the children. Mm-hmm. And that's set for August 17th. Could that change?
So likewise, Lori, she has a pretrial conference scheduled for August 17th, coming up fairly shortly.
And then Rob Wood and John Pryor see eye to eye yet again, and they have each asked East Idaho News nicely, not a subpoena, they just asked nicely if they could have everything that they've ever reported about the case. Just a small, quick ask. Totally normal behavior, I guess, for a news organization to have to export everything. But in this case, I genuinely feel bad for their IT guy to have to pull all of that out. If I were in charge of that, and my background's in web as well, if someone asked me to just export everything really quick about this case, I would just be like, bro, just go to the website. Like, no.
Here's a login. Have a nice day.
Enjoy. And then there was one lone interview, and I wanted us to talk about it because I feel like all the document dumps we kind of lost. We lost our Jer Bear in the process.
And this was back on July 2nd.
That's right. So Jerry was Charles Vallow's older brother, and he and Nate Eaton, and actually Jerry's wife was there too. It was like this Zoom call interview type thing between Nate Eaton, Jerry, and Jerry's wife. And all right, Robin, let's see those Vegas guesses come out. Let's get some betting going. If you can guess Jerry's wife's name, I don't know. I don't have a good win.
Yeah,
what do you want?
You lose. Because
I didn't think.
So Lifetime couldn't keep it separate. So they had to change this name. Jerry Vallow's wife's name is Melanie.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So this interview was awesome. Jerry seems like honestly just like a sweet guy, like just a really down-to-earth guy. He hadn't come forward, obviously, to speak to the media because he seems like just a nice person. He just wanted to heal. He just wanted to grieve. And when he was ready, he reached out to Nate Eaton and said, okay, let's talk about my brother. And there were some really adorable stories in there. And honestly, I could listen to the guy talk for a long time. Like, I could listen to Jerry just talk all day long. He seems like just a nice person. My favorite parts of the interview are when Nate Eaton asks, if you could say anything to Lori, if you could talk with Chad Daybell, like what would you do? And like Jerry doesn't even miss a beat. He's been thinking about this for a while. And in a roundabout way, with fewer expletives, he basically says he's not someone that would punch a woman, but he would happily punch Lori Vallow.
It was beautiful. Yes, it was definitely.
It was beautiful. And the other thing I really liked about Jerry, he was just like very colorful with his language in general. And I don't know if you guys have seen Nate Eaton, he's not exactly colorful in anything, but especially language. And I'm almost positive that you can almost like watch Nate Eaton make a mental note to go to Urban Dictionary after that interview and like figure out what is a see you next Tuesday. Like, I'm not entirely sure what that word meant.
It was a very colorful interview, and he seems like a complete character. And I would love, can you just imagine going to like your local bar and shooting pool with him?
That's totally the vibe. Like, it was just like, he seems like someone like you would just happily just talk to, listen to. He seems just fun. Okay, so let's move to Go Fish.
Yeah, let's move to Go Fish. So that's all we have for the headlines. Let's move to Melanie Gibb. Unchained.
Unchained.
So Brittany,
taking names.
Yeah, start us off. Let's start with Nate Eaton, because that interview happened over a year ago, right?
It actually aired at the end of May of last year, so May 31st of 2020. Mm-hmm. But I imagine, like, for production purposes and blah, 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 I assume the interview took place, maybe towards the beginning of May, mid-May, somewhere in there. But at one of the first things that Nate Eaton says he says something like, "Have you been in hiding? I've been trying to find you since 5 months ago." So that would have put us either January or February of 2020. Mm-hmm. Either way, after the call that happened with Shari.
Yep.
So we're getting Melanie well after the fact, but not at the point where the children have been discovered yet. So just to kind of put that in the timeline, both calls took place before the children were discovered in Chad's backyard. Yeah, Melanie leads off and goes, "Yeah, I've been in hiding. And, why have I been in hiding? Well, would they come after me?" Like a vague they. And more importantly, what would the media say? So, she sets the tone like right off the bat as cool. Let's put Melanie's best foot forward.
Sweet, sweet Melanie. We'd already heard so much about Melanie Gibb. And then when she did the Nate Eaton interview, I think that she actually won a lot of people over. By her demeanor. And again, we were sitting here and we saw the devil like, no, don't believe this bitch. Don't believe her. She's sinister. She was more involved. But she played a really good hand in this interview, I have to say.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The cardigan helps a lot. And I think she saw that and decided that's now what she wears all the time. Nate asks Melanie, "Well, why now? Like, why are you talking to me now?" And she goes, "Well, I faced my fears and the truth is more important." And this is the part you have to tune in on now. Knowing what we know now, it's different. But remember, at the time, a lot of people were still holding out hope that the children were alive in a bunker somewhere safe. Okay, but she said, "I had to do it. I had to do it for those that passed on. Charles, JJ, Tammy, and Tylee. Someone is standing up for what happened to them." That hits so different now, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. It makes me angry, actually.
Why?
Knowing what we know now, knowing that she flat out knew that Lori wanted to kill Charles, that she threatened to kill Charles, that Melanie Gibb assisted in stealing his truck. We know that because of Zach Cox. She knew the plan for murdering Charles between Lori and Alex. She was there for all of that. JJ, Tylee. We know that she was so deeply involved. She was Lori's closest friend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Someone is standing up for what happened to them. Just, it makes my blood boil.
So, in your opinion, do you think Melanie Gibb should get an attorney?
No, because God is on her side, Brittany.
That's right. 10 points. Winning answer. That is actually, for anyone who's somewhat new to listening to this, Melanie, during this interview with Nate Eaton, he goes, "Have you thought about getting an attorney?" Or he actually says it, "You said that a friend asked you if you should get an attorney." And she said, "Why do I need an attorney if I'm telling the truth? God is on my side." If you're new to true crime or, speaking to the media or police officers, probably get the attorney.
With a case of this magnitude, this reach. This case is being followed. We have listeners in Ireland, Australia, Brazil, India who are following this case so closely. I mean, and she's just not going to get an attorney.
But, she's telling the truth. That always works out for people, right?
100%.
Right? Yeah, so we'll see how that goes. Good luck. Then the interview continues. But before we go forward, again, we had this sweet, almost this like bashful woman who, her eyes kind of sparkle a little bit when she gets called out of like, have you been hiding? And, we get this like almost childlike expression from her. Robin, go fish here. What was our expression like with sweet, sweet Melanie when she was talking with Shari?
We got a different kind of Melanie when she was talking to Shari. Her entire tone, just the way that she enunciated words, her tone, her demeanor was flippant and almost borderline just like sarcastic sounding. Very cold. Very, very, very cold. There wasn't really any warmth at all with this Melanie Gibb on the phone call. It almost just sounded, I don't really know how to articulate it, I guess.
Let me try articulating this the way that Melanie taught me how to articulate my words. Was it the adversary? Was it the adversary?
It really bugs me how she says that.
The adversary?
Adversary? You do better.
The adversary. You basically just pretend like you had 6 Mike's Hard Lemonades. That's a Utah accent. The irony of that is bliss. I get that. You're welcome, everyone.
That was a freebie.
You don't even have to subscribe. You're welcome.
Yeah, this Melanie Gibb was not very kind. I was had I not known who Melanie Gibb was at all by the Nate Eaton interview, I would have fallen in love with her. Oh my God, what a sweet woman. Her and her little pink cardigan talking. Yeah. Oh, she's in hiding. Someone give her a cookie. And then you hear this phone call and it's like, oh, so different.
Okay, so for this particular one, if you guys want to get a taste of how Melanie sounds, would people be able to hear it within like 10 seconds of the recording?
Five. Okay.
5 seconds, so
immediately.
So we'll save you the rest of the call. You guys go listen to the first 5 seconds. You get a taste of that. But I'm telling you, you've got sweet angel face Melanie over here at Nate Eaton.
Mm-hmm. And also, guys, just to put this out there, for this episode, I am going to be inserting clips from this call with Shari Dowdle. So as we talk about something and go fish, I'm actually going to play the clip of Melanie, saying whatever, the quote or like the passage. So,
but you can find the full call, True Crime Underground. We have a link directly to it on our timeline.
Correct.
Okay. So the next thing in my interview, Nate and Mel, they just get right into Charles. They get right into him and like kind of like the backstory of everyone, like, tell me about Chad and Lori and what was that like? And then Charles is where things kind of lands. And Melanie describes Charles as just this like really indifferent thing. Like you can see she unintentionally loses a little bit of her sparkle because you can sense, her real feelings kind of coming through. You can watch it in her face. I noticed that quite a bit. Nate's trying to like keep the interview moving. And Melanie goes, yeah, he was like good at barbecue and, he was nice, he was normal. That was how she described him. And then when Nate asked her, did Lori and Charles argue a lot? Like, did they fight? What was their marriage like? And Melanie actually said that, they kind of would get frustrated and they would argue. There was some contention, but she never saw Charles lose his temper with Lori or the kids. Mm-hmm. I kind of thought that was a little bit damning. Being not in the go fish way right now, but we've now seen all these document dumps and the police statements between Lori and police and Tylee and police and Alex and police. Mm-hmm. If Melanie was his best friend and she literally never saw Charles lose his temper and she admits that she was with Lori on a daily basis, that's at least statistically significant, I'd say.
Mm-hmm. No, I completely agree.
So, did she say anything about Charles in the call with Shari?
So she didn't describe Charles in any way in the call with Shari. More so in this call, she discussed events, right? It was almost kind of like a chronological timeline in this phone call of what happened. So she didn't discuss Charles. We'll get there.
Okay. Well, let me try again. The next thing they kind of moved into was the general belief system. Nate asks, tell me, like, where were you at in this belief system? And Melanie goes, I listened. Did I ever believe it 100%? No, not entirely. Like, she's very vague about it. And my favorite part was she said something along the lines of, I was a zealot, but I was never overzealous. Mm-hmm. Which is funny because, like, being a zealot is still a bad thing, Melanie. Like, that's not
right.
I was driving drunk, but I could still blow a breathalyzer fine. Like, that doesn't change anything for you. Like, you're still not supposed to do that. What did Melanie sound like when she was talking about all of this with Shari? Did she make it sound like she was a full believer? What was that like?
So I'm going to play the clip really, really quick. This is in relation to Charles. So as everyone knows, Lori threatened Charles directly, told him about he's now Ned Snyder, all of that. Melanie's exact quote is, in relation to Charles freaking out, right, about Lori's craziness, Melanie says, quote, she's seen Jesus. I'm really believing that she really saw these things, you know? And then I'm just gullible as gullible gets. She stuck on me like Velcro. She was such a good friend to me. You know what I mean? She was close to me. End quote. Now, that sounds like she bought the bullshit, right? Like she was believing that her friend actually saw these things.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, for her to say, and again, just backing up, for her to say that she believed that Lori saw Jesus, blah, 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 that means that she actually believed that Lori was on the same plane as Jesus, right? Because in Mormon religion, like in our belief system, we believe that in order to see a heavenly being, you have to be transfigured in a way to handle that. And so, like, that means she believed that Lori really was a god the way that she described herself.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
So, yeah, no, I would say we just called a little bit of a little bullshit there. Just like a streak in the undies, though. Like, it's not like a full dump of shit. The next thing that Nate got into was cult. Lots of cult talk. Melanie comes out of the gate. We were not a cult. But then, like, later on, she kind of alludes to, like, it's not really a cult, but we did get together a lot. And when we did get together, we only talked about religion. And we didn't necessarily have, like, formal leaders, but we did depend on a hierarchy of Chad telling Lori and Lori telling us. And, like, it just kind of was like, okay, so it's kind of a cult then.
Yeah.
So what sort of cult talk did you hear when you were listening to Shari?
No cult talk in this whatsoever.
Damn.
I know.
Go fish again then.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, nothing.
Well, here's a quick clip where you can hear about Melanie telling Nate what a great group of people. Not a cult, just a good group of people. Definitely not a cult.
You said that it wasn't a group or a cult, but do you think it became that over time?
I guess it depends on what you believe those words mean. A lot of us don't understand what those words mean. I would say it's teachings that you have the basic tenets of the gospel of Jesus Christ that we do as Christians, right? And then you have this doctrine that comes in that's not affiliated with any Christianity that I've ever read of. And it's not doctrine that comes from Jesus Christ, it comes from the adversary. And so that comes in and it's enticing because how many people do you hear even in the world that want to know about their future, right? Or they want to know their fortune or something like that. And so it's enticing, so you keep going more and more into it, and then you get more information, and it gets you to ask questions that you shouldn't be asking. And then you learn these kind of things. And so you can call that what you want. I mean, I didn't see him forming any groups, per se. Preparing People is not a cult. They're people, very nice people, that have an event they hold, and they have different speakers. He just happened to be one of them, and they had no idea that he had these belief systems, nor did he know anything, nor did they know anything about Chad and Lori's relationship. They had no idea.
Okay, so the next thing that I thought was just like hilarious here, we don't have a clip of this with, the Shari conversation, but on the interview with Nate Eaton and Melanie, he asks, hey, tell me about burner phones. And there's this like short pause. Here, just listen for yourselves.
Have you heard anything about burner phones? 60 burner phones being used to communicate, or
I don't know that word, burner.
It's like a prepaid phone that you can go down to 7-Eleven and buy a phone and put 400 minutes on it, and then once it's done, you can get another one. It's not like you have a cell phone plan or anything. Did Lori use a lot of those type of devices?
Well, I know that she had about 3 phones, but they seem to be the same phones. So if she did those and threw them away, I don't know about that.
But she had 3 phones and was getting calls on all of them.
Yeah, it was hard to track her at times. You didn't know which phone she was going to pick up.
Why did she need so many phones?
Well, she had one special phone that her and Chad would communicate with, and he had a special phone outside of his cell phone number. So it was just for their personal communication.
So one specific phone for Chad and Lori to communicate with.
Yeah.
And why could they not communicate on their normal phone?
I guess in case somebody picked it up and saw their conversations.
Okay, so basically Melanie was like, what's a burner phone? And then the second that Nate goes, girl, like, we know about the burner phones. Then she fesses up, yeah, okay, so Lori had 3 and also one of them was just for Chad. You're right.
Yeah.
You got me. It's interesting that her initial way that she wants to lie is to go innocent. There's a theme with her lying where she'll go with, oh, I don't know. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure. It's convenient. She did it again. This one's really fun. Nate asks her about portals. What's this thing about portals and this? And again, Melanie's like, I'm not sure. But then she spells out exactly what a portal is.
Yep.
Well, Chad goes into the closet and he says a prayer. Now it's a special place that they can communicate on a spiritual level or something. I'm not sure. Like, bitch, that's exactly, you just described it. You're good. You got it done.
If Chad opened up a portal, supposedly he also, or had Lori assist Melanie Boudreau with a portal in her home as well. You know damn well that Melanie Gibb knew how a portal operated.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And speaking of playing with portals, this was my absolute favorite clip of the entire interview. Nate asks Melanie Gibb about Melanie Boudreau, or Pulowski, or Lainey, if you're a Lifetime fan like us. Yeah, let's play this.
And what was Melanie Boudreau like?
She was, she's fun. I really love Melanie. We did have a special relationship. She loved me and I loved her, and so she seemed that she had a lot of strife going on in her life, and she was really worried about her family, and so we had conversations about what was going on to some level. I mean, I wasn't as involved with their conversations as Lori and Melanie were, but as far as I went, we just were a support of, to each other, I think.
So, Lifetime, if you're listening, we're gonna need a lesbian love spinoff of Doomsday Mom, because as you heard, there is a very special relationship worth capturing.
And I wish that we could post video of this for all of you podcast listeners, because Melanie Gibb lit up like the Rockefeller Christmas tree. Just the look on her face when she mentioned Melanie Boudreau.
She is in love. This
Bliss.
is love for her.
I love her.
Oh my gosh.
She loved me.
I love how she interrupts herself. Like, I liked her. No. Love. Definitely love.
And here we thought we were getting a Lori Vallow Melanie Gibb spinoff, but no, we were wrong. We again stand corrected, guys.
We will constantly be wrong so long as we keep getting our Lifetime fix.
Yes.
If that's all we have to do, I will keep messing up. Okay, so let's go back to some Go Fish. Did Melanie talk to Shari at all about Tammy?
Yes. And to me personally, this is actually the most explosive thing in the call, because it is actually, I'm going to go ahead and play the clip of what Melanie Gibb said to Shari about how she found out that Tammy was dead.
So then Tammy dies, and then she's in Hawaii when it happens, and I call her in Hawaii, and I say, hey, guess what? You know, Tammy just died. Do you know this? And she goes, no, I haven't heard it yet. And I said, well, what happened? What happened to Tammy? And she goes, well, she was a zombie 2 weeks before she died. And I was like, really? She goes, yeah, she was starting to question our relationship. She was wondering if he was having an affair. I said, oh. And so, and I said, well, how did she die? She goes, well, we just had to do what we could to take her out of her spirit. Something like that. Uh-huh. And I was like, okay. I'm thinking she said a prayer and her spirit went home. That's what I'm thinking, right? And so, like, maybe she did some kind of, like, blessing or something, you know, like people can do that, I guess. I don't know.
So, yes, she very much actually talked about Tammy. And Go Fish back at you, because I have a feeling that this is not the version of events that she told Nate Eaton.
Correct. So here is what she told Nate.
One of the people we haven't talked about is Tammy. How did you learn that Tammy had died?
Someone texted me, a friend, not any, person that was associated close, but just a friend. She said, hey, just want to let you know she passed on. And then I said, how did you find out? She said, Facebook.
What did you think when you saw that she had died?
I thought, oh my gosh, she died. That's what they said was going to happen. I wonder what happened.
So did you think it was part of the plan?
I didn't know how they did it, but I knew it was part of the plan, that she was supposed to pass away. I mean, other people knew she was supposed to pass away because, Chad knew this information for, quite a while.
So in the Shari Dowdle call, she says that Lori was in Hawaii and, quote, I call her in Hawaii and I say, hey, guess what? Tammy just died. And she goes, Lori, no, I haven't heard it yet. And then in the very next sentence, guys, like this is Melanie Gibb on a phone call, right? In the very next sentence, she says, I said, what happened? What happened to Tammy? She goes, well, she was a zombie 2 weeks before she died.
One thing I just want to throw out there too, on my side, when Nate asks her, when did you find out? What was that like? Melanie lights up again. It's weird.
Mm-hmm.
She's excited to be like, everyone was right. The prophecies came true. She is excited to express that something was predicted and came to be. Her initial reaction was not to express grief. Yeah, you know what? This is what happened, Nate, reporter person asking me about a human being. Her expression was like Nate saying that the pumpkin spice latte was coming back early this year. She's pumped.
I think that, again, a lot of this case revolves around religious zealotry, because in the Shari Dowdle call, she asked Lori what happened. Really? She's dead? And apparently Lori said, yeah, she was starting to question our relationship. She was wondering if we were having an affair. And Melanie Gibb said, oh, well, how did she die? Apparently, Lori said, well, we just had to do what we could to take her out of her spirit, which any sane and rational human being would be like, okay, they murdered her.
Yeah.
But not Melanie Gibb,
yeah,
not
yes.
sweet Melanie. She said, she believed, she's like, okay, I'm thinking she said a prayer.
What?
And she said, that's what I'm thinking, right? Maybe she did some kind of blessing or something. People can do that.
Do they not teach what death is in homeschool? What in the world?
Yeah, apparently you just say a blessing and your spirit just goes home. So that's,
okay.
Yeah, it's really, really bizarre though. And again, knowing what we know now, don't forget at this point, Charles is dead. Melanie Gibb was there for the planning of Charles Vallow's murder, more or less. She knew that they were planning it for months in the Shari Dowdle call. And that she knew. But
my gosh.
And in this call, she even says that Lori Vallow said that Tammy was a zombie herself 2 weeks before she died.
Okay, so this isn't exactly related, but kind of like a tangent Go Fish. In her interview with Nate, Melanie says that she didn't hear about Charles dying until 4 days after his death. based on what we know and how close the two of them were, how close Melanie and Lori were, do you think that's legit, or do you think that was a lie too?
Oh, hell no. I do not believe that at all. Zach Cox even said that Melanie basically was with Lori 24/7. Melanie Gibb, out of her own mouth, has said that she was with Lori 24/7. So all of a sudden, this plan, Melanie Gibb in the Shari Dowdle call admits to knowing that they planned his murder, quote unquote, by self-defense for months. And you mean to tell me that Lori just kind of no, I'm not going to tell Melanie.
Okay, so I just have to go back now. So I know we're kind of jumping around with this call, but now I have to know, what did Melanie Gibb say to Shari regarding her visit to Rexburg with David? They were staying at Lori's townhouse. The kids aren't there. This would have been the weekend of September 23rd of 2019.
Okay, to me, this is the most shocking and salacious aspect of the call with Shari Dowdle. Let's play the clip of Melanie talking about her trip to Rexburg and what she believed, Tylee and JJ, the situation with them. Let's play that now.
So she's told to move up to Rexburg. The Lord tells her, move up to Rexburg now. She takes Tylee and JJ with her. Tylee and JJ are up there. I know she's up there with both of them because I can hear them on the phone in the background while she's packing and moving in. And then she tells me, I don't know, within a week or two, that Tylee is now at BYU. He's up there. She's up there at school. Huh. So I go up to visit her, and I see that Tylee is not there. And I said, hey, Tylee's. I mentioned again, Tylee went to BYU, and she goes, yeah, but she gave me this really creepy look.
Oh.
Yeah, it was creepy. It was yes, she's dead, really, and that kind of look.
Yeah.
Yeah, almost that kind of look. But then I didn't know what to think about it at the time. I was like, why do I feel creepy when she looks at me like that,
Yeah.
And so anyway, then she tells me, I get there in September 23rd weekend, and JJ's missing. No, JJ's not missing, sorry. JJ's there, and she tells me he's a zombie now.
Oh, my goodness.
And so was Tylee.
Oh, no.
So people that are zombies, they don't end up staying alive, as you've probably seen the pattern here. And so, anyway, so I say, okay, she says, I'm just going to give him back to Kay, the grandmother. And I said, well, that sounds like a good idea. Then you guys can move on with your missions. Just tell her to take Kay. You think she'll take JJ? I mean, he's a lot of work. Do you think she'll take, no, yeah, I'm hoping so. I'll just have to make something up. I said, well, tell her you're sick or something and that you just have some illness and that you're not able to watch after him. So, she said, hey, he's a handful. And so, and plus it's not her kid anyway, right? And so...
It's not her kid because she adopted him, right?
Right, she adopted him from Kay's family.
Oh, she did?
Yeah.
Oh.
As a baby. She had him as a baby. Yeah, he was a drug baby, and so they adopted him as a baby. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And she was a really good mom to him. She was. She was really patient with him and very loving. I saw her. She's very loving to him.
Wow.
And, she was, hands down, she was a great mom, very patient with that kid.
This passage made me unbelievably angry. As all of you know, I lost both of my parents to COVID-19 over the last year. What a lot of you may not know is that I'm actually adopted myself. I was adopted at 2 weeks old, and they were my parents. I was their child. And hearing Melanie Gibb say, oh, well, they adopted JJ as a baby, but he's not even their kid anyway. It just shows how big of a worthless, heartless, cruel piece of shit that you are. Lori and Charles adopted JJ as a baby. Charles was JJ's father. Lori, by all technicality, was JJ's mother. However, I think Kay Woodcock probably takes the title, the actual title. Just how heartless can you be? Lori spent years taking care of JJ, raising JJ. And in this passage, Melanie recounts that she and Lori were talking about JJ like a discarded dish rag. Well, it's not even ours to begin with. You should just send him back. You should just return it to his biological family. Just so cruel. And the thing about it is that this is Melanie Gibb off the cuff, guys. She's not being recorded. This is who she is. And so that part was just utterly disgusting to me. Lori spent years raising JJ with medication, taking him on trips, going to the beach and, you know, all these different places. And they're talking about him. Melanie Gibb is talking about him like, yeah, I just said, you know, make up an illness, Lori. Make up an illness. Say you're sick and can't care for him anymore. You don't do that to human beings. You don't do that to children, much less special needs children. All of these people were just so disgusting and vile. And sadly, that's not even the worst part of this particular passage. That's just something that really, 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 really got to me. I know that my nerves are still raw, and I'm still not doing actually okay, you know, considering my parents passing and everything. But hearing someone just be so calloused and cruel about a living, breathing human being and saying, well, you know, they weren't blood related anyway, so meh. Who would say that? What sane human being would be like, yeah, someone shot me a look, and it's like, yeah, she's dead. That's what it appears. I don't know. That's bizarre.
Now remember, she said this in real life in January of 2020, just months before the kids were found, meaning she had this gut feeling that she likes to brag about, how she has these gut feelings, and those are what prompt her to come forward to law enforcement. So her gut feeling back in January of 2020, and she waited to watch along with the rest of us, I assume, on June 9th when the kids were found.
Mm-hmm. And lest we not forget, too, that wasn't it Melanie Gibb that Lori was on the phone with when Lori called Tylee a zombie and Tylee said, not me, Mom?
Oh, yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah. I believe she was on the phone with Melanie Gibb and Melanie Gibb relayed that. So yeah, so she already knew that Tylee was called a zombie, but she was still believing the bullshit of Tylee going to BYU. But so in the Shari Dowdle phone call, admits that Lori gave her a look that almost, you know, said the look that Tylee's dead. So there's that. But then here's something even more bizarre to me is JJ. She says, anyway, then she tells me, I get there on September 23rd weekend and JJ is missing. And then there's a pause and she says, no, JJ is not missing. Sorry. JJ is there and she tells me he's a zombie now.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, guys. So I know that people misspeak all the time. My God, I do constantly and have to apologize for myself. However, if you are Melanie Gibb and you are kind of caught up in this international murder of children, how can you get that wrong? How can you say, oh, well, he was missing entirely. Oh, nope, he wasn't missing. He was there.
Yeah, well, she got her shit together by the time her interview rolled around in May, so months later, but still before the kids were found, when she sat down with Nate Eaton. You want to hear what she said here?
Yes.
Did you stay with Lori at that time when you went up to visit her?
Mm-hmm.
And were the kids there?
JJ was.
But Tylee was not.
Tylee was not.
Where was she?
I was told she was at BYU.
BYU in Provo?
Idaho.
BYU in Idaho. Would that have been a normal answer? Like a normal, okay, that makes sense type thing?
Well, I knew that Tylee had had her GED that she got when she was 16 or 17. I'm not sure exactly the age. And so it could have been plausible, but it didn't feel like it. There was definitely question marks. It was question marks for me. It didn't feel real. It didn't feel like the truth. I didn't know what to say about it. I wouldn't assume that she had done something to her, so it was kind of, I don't know. It was unusual.
But you didn't question her?
I didn't question it.
Was JJ with you on the walks?
No.
Where was he?
He was at home.
By himself?
His uncle was watching him.
Alex?
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So JJ's home with Alex, but there's no sign of Tylee?
Correct.
And how long did you stay with Lori? Was it for a week?
So Thursday to a Monday morning.
I'm assuming Tylee never called her. She never called Tylee.
She didn't even talk about her.
Never spoke about Tylee. Mm-hmm. Did she speak at all about JJ?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, he was all around us, and we were talking about him quite a bit, actually.
What did she say? As
I arrived on the Thursday, she had said that he had turned into a zombie the day before I got there. And she was pointing out behaviors of his. Like, look how he's doing this, that's unusual. Or look how he's doing that. And she was trying to create uncertainty in me about what I saw his behavior. Like, what do you call that? Like a doubt. A doubt. And I was looking at him and I thought, well, I don't know. He kind of looks like JJ to me, you know.
Obviously a little bit of a different story that she gave here to Nate. So biggest difference is she's very specific with her words. Did you guys pick up on that? I was told Tylee was at BYU. Nate specifically asked, were the kids there? And Melanie's answer was, JJ was. Tylee was not. Long pause. Mm-hmm. I was told she was at BYU. Mm-hmm. It could have been plausible, but it was question marks for me. It didn't feel real. It didn't feel like truth. I didn't know what to say. And the big one, I wouldn't assume she had done something to her. I didn't question it. Okay, so comparing those, what the fuck? What?
Yeah. Something is not right here.
That is a massive difference.
I almost wonder, right? Especially the weekend that JJ, the September 23rd weekend, I almost wonder if Melanie has given so many different stories that she almost just kind of gave one and then was like, oh shit, and walked it back. Like she had a rotating group of stories that she would tell people, and then kind of got her wires crossed in this conversation with Shari. I don't know.
Yeah. And it's funny because like, in the Nate Eaton interview, she talks about how she's a really chill person. She doesn't like a lot of drama. Mm-hmm. And yet this kind of seems like she likes being there for drama. Like she followed Lori around like crazy. She was present for the, whole purse debacle between Charles and Lori. She was there for the mental health check. I mean, it kind of sounds like she likes drama. And so this would fit in with, hey, what's the most salacious way you can tell this?
And don't forget on this Shari Dowdle call as well, she even says the quote, people that are zombies, they don't end up staying alive. So like she knew that. She knew.
Yeah, that to me is like, if there was like one highlight of this podcast today, it's that Melanie changed her story real quick the second that she sat down with Nate Eaton. She was very specific with her words there, very careful, very slow and methodical. Like there was a lot of focus there when she was talking. And I think she didn't really feel the need to do that with this Shari phone call because she didn't think she was being watched or listened to.
Yeah, no, completely agreed. Dare I even say with the Nate Eaton interview, dare I even say coached? Like I actually believe that she was coached for that. Like 100% coached. I don't think she just showed up, appeared magically at a vineyard, fondled some grapes, and then decided to like sit there and be off the cuff. I think that she fully went into that fully coached.
It's just so interesting, though, because to date, we haven't seen a lawyer come forward for her. In fact, when Mark Means served Melanie Gibb with what Robin likes to refer to as, you say subpoena bus.
Subpoena tree, the subpoena bus.
Actually, you're right. It was the subpoena tree, wasn't it? She hit every
branch on the way down. Yeah.
God, okay, I butchered it. When she got served with that, she referred to Rob Wood like, you can speak to my attorney. Mm-hmm. Like, true. No, honey, no.
It doesn't work that way. But
so who do you think would have coached her?
I truly believe she actually has an attorney. She's not, she's dumb, but she can't be that dumb. Knowing what she's been involved with, she had to have gotten an attorney. I know that she's a religious zealot. I know that she may think God is on her side, but I do believe that just this episode that we're doing right now in general, this game of Go Fish is proving that she's changed her story, that she has lied. And I think that she at least is smart enough to know that much. And so therefore, I do actually believe that she has an attorney. I just don't think she's like the Cox family flashing their attorney all around in interviews and whatnot.
Yeah, fair. Well, time will tell. We've got some trials coming up.
I do have one bone to pick. Something that I just it just reiterated it is the fact that Melanie and Lori, everyone calls JJ the drug baby. And it's so dehumanizing that they do that. And I hate it. I remember when this case initially broke and initially started gaining steam, especially on social media and Facebook groups and whatnot. And there were actually people defending Lori for potentially murdering JJ.
What?
Yeah, like potentially there were people actually defending the fact that she could have possibly murdered JJ because he was special needs. We've seen that in a lot of true crime and criminal cases. You know, parents get really frustrated, and instead of doing the right thing, they just heinous and they murder their child. People are actually excusing that. So I just find it like it rubs me so wrong when I hear Melanie Gibb, especially, and Lori does it multiple times. Melanie does it multiple times. Just, yeah, he's a drug baby. Like, why is that relevant information at all?
And on top of that, of all people to be entirely just flippant about it, Melanie, by multiple accounts, has one child with autism, right?
I actually heard it was multiple children with autism.
Multiple?
That's what I mean. I could be completely wrong, but
wouldn't that make her more understanding? Like maybe a little bit more, like you would think that there would be something there. But what's interesting is a lot of that really harsh terminology and just like her attitude on this call with Shari that we're hearing. Mm-hmm. There's echoes of it in the Nate Eaton interview. Like, check this out. This is later on when Nate asks her, where do you think the kids are? Where do you think they are right now? Her initial answer, listen to this.
Where do you think the kids are?
They're not on this planet anymore. I don't think they are. That's my personal opinion. I know Tylee's a very strong-willed individual, and she's capable of making a phone call if she needs to call. And she hasn't reached out to anybody and let anybody know she's alive. I can't imagine she would be quiet the whole time. I can't imagine it. JJ's a handful. He wouldn't have his medication with him, so how could she take care of him? You know, Tylee and him, how could they take care of each other? And it doesn't add up. If they're in a safe place, why is she in Hawaii having a great time on her honeymoon when her children are running for safety? Or hiding in safety, that doesn't even make sense. I think most people understand that. And so everybody's looking in at her going, what are you doing?
That's cold. Mm-hmm. Not on this planet. Your initial reaction?
No, is that an LDS phrase that their spirits have passed on? Or is that just her being a cold bitch?
No, it's actually interesting. A lot of the times you'll hear like Melanie refer to planets and this, and even Nate was confused by it. And Nate Eaton, by all accounts, is a every Sunday Mormon. He's very devout. So he was confused, like, what planet? Like, what is that? Planetary references are very much this like fringe group thing. They'd like to talk about like different worlds and things like that.
That's what I was wondering. I didn't know if that was just something that was kind of normal for her belief system, or if that was just really kind of off the wall. Totally
weird. I can see the like traces here. And like just a quick random reminder in case we have anyone that's kind of new listening. I was Mormon my entire life. I was raised in it. I know this doctrine very well. I've got really close family friends that actually are involved with, or were involved with Julie Rowe and prepping. And so, I understand a lot of these references, and I've done a deep dive having since left Mormonism and done a lot of studying with early Mormon history. And so these references that you hear of like planets and different worlds and different probations, it's like these people now took little crumbs of things that people said in early Mormon days and they just ran with them. It's there to say that they're totally different and they got it out of nowhere is false. There are breadcrumbs that if you were desperately searching for answers in your life and you glommed onto some of these things and you were someone who was maybe predisposed to taking people's money and telling them that it's energy healing, these scriptures would work out great for you. This is one of those examples, the whole planet thing.
That makes sense. Thank you for explaining that in context.
You're welcome. That's literally the only reason I am here.
It's certainly not your sparkling personality.
It's definitely not that. Okay, so interesting that we get a little bit of that echo of cold answers that we kind of got a taste of in the Shari call, and then sneaking into the Nate Eaton interview slightly. Now, just to kind of go back to timeline a little bit again, So Melanie at this time, we've now heard that she had at least a minimum suspicion that the children were gone, that Chad and Lori and Alex had something to do with it. And in that moment, when she's sitting in front of Nate Eaton, and he asks her, like the kids, again, kids have not been found yet, but Melanie knows. Melanie has gut feelings that those children are not on this planet anymore. Nate asks her, what do you think about Chad? What's Chad like? Listen to this.
The stories, for all those that do believe in Chad and love him, and I love him too, and I know his family loves him. But I knew about these things before the news released it, and it is documented. So I am only here to share the truth because of those that passed away and that justice needs to be served. My hope is that they will look into their hearts and start to repent of the things and confess the things they did.
Chad and Lori.
Chad and Lori.
I don't know if Melanie Gibb loves Melanie Boudreau more or less than Chad.
I'm going to have to say probably on par with.
Yeah. Isn't that disgusting?
Mm-hmm. No, it's really gross.
So
that was,
she knew all this.
I watched the Nate Eaton interview as it happened, right? Like I watched it live. And
same.
My big takeaway from that entire interview was how much she seemingly still loved Chad.
Isn't that disgusting?
Mm-hmm. And I think that actually spurred a lot of the cult talk too.
Absolutely. Like her adoration for Lori, for Chad, a lot, and even like Alex, there's a lot of like fondness in there. And obviously like she has a thing for Melanie Boudreau. They have a very special relationship. But with Chad, for her to end that, like he's a great guy. I think he's a great guy. I don't like his teachings. They're not for me as much anymore. But still solid man. Great man. What? Did she say anything about Chad to Shari?
She didn't comment on her personal feelings towards Chad. Again, more just action, but nothing, no personal, no.
Let's kind of segue a little bit to Alex, because Melanie did talk about Alex a little bit. On my side with Nate Eaton, she actually said Alex entirely believed all of the zombie stuff. He was a believer, totally believed it, because she and him sat down and she confessed that she didn't really, wasn't sure. And he was trying to tell her like, well, I believe this is 100% yes, this makes sense to me. And then even later, she tells Nate Eaton that when she found out that Alex had passed away, her very first one was, I wonder if he killed himself because it was made known to him that she was going to go to the police about Alex's statement of, you don't want to know where they are. You don't want to know. And her worry was that him knowing that she was going to go to police was the reason that he killed himself. Listen to this here.
What did you think had happened to Alex?
I had many different ideas. I thought, did he kill himself? Did he did realize that I was going to tell the police. That was made known to him. And so I thought maybe he really, once he heard my doubt in all of this, maybe his heart was pricked. Maybe he realized that, oh my goodness, I've been a part of something that's not good. And I mean, those are different thoughts that I had. Or maybe, somebody could have tried to kill him. I didn't know. I just really did not know. I was guessing all over the place, just like you were probably. How in the world did he die? I really didn't know. I mean, I asked the police, but they didn't tell me.
Tell me a little bit, like, how does that differ between the Shari and Melanie call?
Okay, yes. So she did tell Shari about multiple conversations with Alex, and a couple pieces from this. So in terms of her feeling kind of when the police initially got involved, she talks and she describes how she spoke with Alex, and Alex, that conversation, do I want to know what happened to JJ? And Alex says, no, you don't want to know. Let's just play this entire section of this call. This is going to be about a minute and a half of what she says about Alex Cox.
anyway, so I go down to Arizona, and her brother's down there, just down the street from me, because he's marrying my friend who's in my ward. Her name's Sulema. And so I say, hey, are you around? And so anyway, I said, hey, let's meet. We need to talk. So I said, hey, Alex, I said, do I want to know what happened to JJ? And he says, no, you don't want to know. I went, what?
Oh, my goodness.
And she goes, I told Lori she should have never got you involved in this. I'm like, yeah, she should have never got me involved. That was not smart. And then he said, yeah, the police ransacked my house, took my guns. And I'm like, I wonder why they did that. I couldn't figure that out at the time. And I just figured, they kept telling me that, they had a lot of bad people working for them, that now the cops are zombies, that kind of stuff.
Oh, my goodness.
And so, anyway, I'm starting to get, like, really creepy feelings. And then, so anyway, one of my friends, he was with me. He goes home, and he calls me up, and I'm like, he's like, Melanie, I'm really worried about your testimony. I'm like, what? Why are you worried about my testimony? And I'm like, okay, I need you to be a friend. Let's talk. I said, okay, I'm not sure how I'm feeling about the zombie thing. What do you think? And he knew what was going on and stuff. And I said, I don't have a testimony of it. Like, I'm not sure what to think about all this stuff. And he goes, oh my gosh, me too. He goes, I just never have a testimony of Chad and Lori. And so all of a sudden, this heaviness that was on him was leaving him. Just the heaviness of he'd been trying to pray about if they were really who they were.
Yeah.
And he was not getting an answer about it. And anyway, the heaviness leaves him.
Melanie and Alex were friends, right? They were newer friends, but they were fairly close. Close enough that as all of this is going on, Melanie felt comfortable enough to call Alex to basically try to get the down low, right? What do you think about this, Alex? Do I want to know what's happened? Why the police are getting involved? What's going on? Now there's zombies, all of this. And so what I find really fascinating about this call with Shari Dowdle is that she does the I don't really want to know, like that piece. But then basically, long story short, as you hear, she gets scared. Apparently, Alex calls her and is like, I'm really scared about your testimony. Melanie, I'm really worried about your testimony. Which translation, guys, basically more or less, to me, correct me if I'm wrong, Alex was basically scared that Melanie Gibb was going to go to the police.
Totally. Yeah.
And she indicates in this call with Shari Dowdle that she began to fear for her safety. Yeah. So it's just kind of like, okay.
But they're not a cult. They're definitely not a cult. They're a tight-knit family. You can leave at any time and you never have to worry if, you're going to get shot for it.
Not a cult at all. And then another piece too. Melanie ends up calling Zulema. And here's what Melanie had to say about Zulema.
That deep pit stomach feeling you get when things are wrong?
Yep.
I was feeling it gut instinct was going, something's wrong. So I call Sulema and I'm like, hey, Sulema, like, what did Alex say? I'm getting a bad feeling. I'm not sure what to think about this. And she goes, well, I don't, she told me what her testimony was of Chad and how he gave her a blessing, made her also part of the 144,000 and said she was translated too. And then said, she basically started having visions after this. Okay.
Yeah.
So she had a testimony of Chad that he was a real visionary. And so I said, well, what did Alex tell you? What happened? And she said, well, all he said to me was, you don't want to know. No. He said, they won't be able to be found. He won't be able to be found.
Oh,
I'm like,
goodness.
that? I said, you know what? I'm not really feeling good about this, Selena. And she had just married him. And because, that Chad and Laura were like, get married, hurry, you're part of the 145,000, you need to get married. My brother Alex, you need to marry him.
And then that's when she flies off to be personally ministered to by David Warwick. But
that is some one-on-one up until 5 a.m. for a week, just like laying on that ministering book.
Yep. And that's when she contacts the Rexburg police. So in my mind, how I'm actually seeing this going, something happened. I do believe that the phone call with Alex happened. I do believe he was like, you don't want to know. In fact, I think that Melanie Gibb already knew what happened to JJ most likely. But let's just pretend and say she didn't. I think that Alex spooked her. I think something happened and she's like, oh shit, my safety is jeopardized now. And then I think that's why she went to police.
Now, keep in mind, too, and this is actually something that someone who was so sweet and sent this in on our timeline, they wanted to make it clear that Melanie actually did take the call from the police the same day that she like avoided the calls and was supposed to lie about JJ being with her and all of that. Later that same day, she did finally accept the phone call, but it wasn't until December 6th that she did go in and give like the full story. So did she work with police right away? Yeah, kind of.
10 days later,
sort
right?
of.
Wasn't it 10 days
But
later?
then, yeah, it was several days later before she finally sat down with them and was like, okay, here.
Mm-hmm.
Now, keep in mind the timeline on this again. So like you can use it on our website, wesawthedevil.com. Click the button that says timeline. There's also a big red button on the homepage. Alex passed away on December 12th, 2019. The call with Shari took place less than a month later.
Yeah.
January of 2020. So like she's talking about Alex passing away. Like even like she admits that this was like a family. They were close. They were friends. They were all hanging out. And a month later, she's just like, it kind of has like a gossipy vibe to it again.
Very much. She's like, bless his heart.
Insane.
I mean, she literally actually says, bless his heart, which, guys, yeah, she says, Alex, bless his heart, he passed away. He just thought he was doing a favor to his sister. He didn't really care so much about Charles or this or that. Basically, he's psychotic, but he just thought he was helping her. And guys, and I'm sure like the Woodcocks, if you're from the South, you know that when you say bless your heart or bless his heart, that shit is lethal.
So let's just make sure this is clear. So I'm here to help, with the nuances of Mormonism, and you are here for the nuances of Southern.
Yes, I'll take it.
Noted. Noted. Well, what's interesting too is Nate Eaton asks Melanie, do you think Alex was involved regarding the children? And like, did he have something to do with this? Did he have something to do with the shooting with the Boudreaux? Like, just generally, how involved was Alex? And her answer was, I think it's possible. And then after that, the other damning thing, he asks, do you think the others know the details? And he's referring to Summer, to Melanie, Boudreaux, and basically these kind of other people, Zulema. Listen to this. This is, I think it tells us a lot more that we need to know here.
Do you think they know stuff?
I don't know about some of the people. I don't know all of what they know from Lori. I know some of them what they know, and I know some of them I don't know what everybody knows, but some of them do.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them do? Meaning Melanie knew quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Melanie knew quite a bit, and she's basically saying there were people who they might know a bit more. She already had an inkling that the kids were dead. She already knew what it meant when Tammy became dark. She knew all this. She knew what this meant. So for her to say that other people in their tight-knit group probably knew more, oh snap. I am so interested to find out. I mean, with Zulema and her immunity deal, are we going to be able to see if she is one of those people? How much more did people know that didn't come forward? And we'll come and circle back to that kind of our final thoughts. But it's interesting that in this interview from forever ago, she's already alluding to, if you guys think I know a lot, yeah, I was not even privy to a lot of information.
Well, we know that Zulema has to be the treasure trove, right? I mean, she was married to Alex. She was very, very, very involved. We know the context of some of the messages between her and Lori, right? But in the Shari Dowdle call, so Melanie ended up calling Zulema. Remember, everybody's friends because it's not a cult.
Along with this, guys, like, don't forget, I mean, I know we've really focused on Tammy, Charles, and the kids, but there are other crimes that are involved, right? There's lots of other crimes. It's the life insurance talk. It's the attempted shooting on Brandon Boudreaux. I mean, that's still under investigation. And that's actually an interesting clip here. Did Melanie talk about that with Shari at all?
No.
No? Okay, so just as a friendly reminder, Nate Eaton asks about that. And he says, well, how did you find out about Brandon getting shot at? So this is where it's kind of awkward for Melanie. She goes, well, I was kind of asked to go and check on his house and, just check on the kids and see if they were there. Yeah, okay, fine. Alex and her boo, Melanie Boudreau, asked her to do this. So keep in mind throughout all of this, Melanie's saying that there was this kind of weird vibe going on, and she was nervous about Alex, and she was not sure how she felt about a lot of these teachings, yet she felt totally comfortable to go and just do some recon work.
Yep.
What? Which side are you on here?
Mm-hmm.
For those that want to hear that, again, let's actually play the clip because I want to make sure people hear this in context too.
Let's talk about Brandon Boudreau and when he was shot at. Did you have any sort of relationship with Brandon? Had you met him through Melanie?
I had met him briefly once or twice. Not much conversation, just hi, kind of that, nothing.
Casual acquaintances.
Yeah, I didn't really know him. Yeah.
How did you find out that somebody had taken a shot at him?
So that's interesting. I didn't know he was shot at until I was asked to go check on his house and drive by his house to see if their children, Brandon's children were there.
And who asked you to do that?
Alex and Melanie. And so I drove by and to see if anybody was there because she was concerned about her children. And I talked to a neighbor, and he said that they had moved out 2 weeks ago. And he said there was no children there. And he said, I'm really glad they moved on because somebody tried to shoot at Brandon. And I said, really? So anyway, I went back and shared this with Alex, and he said, oh yeah, we heard about that. He got shot at, but we believe that somebody tried to take a shot at it to make it look like it was us or make it look like me. I'm not sure who was referring to himself or...
So Alex volunteered and said they're trying to make people think it was me.
Yeah.
So, Robin, if you had to summarize the rest of the call with Shari, what was the rest of the vibe of that like?
Very gossipy, just very... My all-time favorite, though, is... so back when Melanie skips town and goes to stay with David Warwick, she's like...
Mm-hmm.
We talked about this in our previous episode, the last one, but it's just very much like, do you know who David is? Well, he's my boyfriend. I mean, it almost felt like Mean Girls, and they have their burn book, Melanie is just going through, and it's just so... It's not the Melanie you get with Nate Eaton.
It's a good flex though. I'm betting David. Yeah. Good for you, hun.
Yeah, it's so one interesting piece though for me is further cementing the Lifetime lesbian spinoff that we didn't know that we needed. So she does talk more about Melanie Boudreau, and she's basically is like, poor Melanie, she got a divorce, she moved up to Rexburg, she got a divorce, she lost her kids, and poor Melanie, everyone abandoned her. Now she's up in Rexburg all alone. It's so sad. And Shari didn't even miss a beat. She's like, so did they exhume Tammy's body? And she didn't even miss a beat. She's like, no fucks to get for Melanie.
Moves on.
Yep, moves on. I don't care.
I too would like to abandon Melanie Boudreau.
Right.
Anyways.
Didn't even reply. Just so, did they exhume Tammy's body? And Melanie's like, I don't know. And then she says, no, she's referring to Chad with this. I believe she's referring to law enforcement and what they know about Chad. So let's listen to Melanie's clip on this.
But I just told him, I said, that he's talking to people on the phone every day, right? He's talking to most people in LDS Valley. He goes, oh yeah, we're very aware of it. So.
Wow.
He's talking to people on the phone every day, right? He's talking to those people. Then there's a few seconds of inaudible audio. And apparently the law enforcement goes, oh yeah, we're very aware of it.
Oof.
So that means that there are other people involved.
Yeah.
And so do you think they're talking more than just Zulema and Alex? Or are we talking a handful of other people?
I am still not convinced that Melanie herself doesn't have burner phones. It would seem weird that...
I can confirm
it would
from insider information that Melanie Boudreau did have a handful of burner phones.
Okay. So that can kind of help dial it in a little bit then. Because we know that Lori had 3, and one of them was specifically for Chad, but like, why the other 2? It would be weird if it's just for a handful of people. It would make sense if there were more.
Yeah. I mean, it absolutely would, but I can 100%. I have been told by someone who is a close member of the family, I'll leave it there for anonymity, that Melanie Boudreau did have a handful of burner phones.
OMG, guys. Robin, you'll have to give us that tea recipe another time.
When I have been authorized, I will. But yeah, it's so Melanie Boudreau did in fact have burner phones, which really makes, and that's why I'm so fascinated by the Ian Pawlowski, his involvement with the FBI, and a very brief informant and whatnot. Like, I just that particular situation is so fascinating to me.
That's actually something I've spent a little bit of time on. I'm starting to go through the timeline of Ian's involvement next, and that'll be added to our timeline shortly. So feel free to go check that out soon, guys. But I mean, all things considered, my favorite quote that really summarizes this and really shows who Melanie Gibb is on all fronts. She's very two-faced. She's very calculating, and she's very good at putting the right words together for Nate and for anyone that's going to be seeing her in the limelight. Check this clip out. I think it summarizes exactly the irony and the lies and everything between these 2 conversations.
Getting up here and speaking, I have no desire to say things about people that's hurtful. It's just truthful. But that's not my personality to gossip. So this is very uncomfortable for me.
So there you have it, guys. It's definitely not her personality to gossip. So clearly that settles this.
Clearly. Oh, God. Again, guys, if you want to hear the full Shari Dowdle phone call, you can go to our website, wesawthedevil.com, go to the timeline, click on it, and then the link will be to True Crime Underground's YouTube video of the full call. But yeah, it's night and day. It really is night and day. And I just feel like people think that we're, again, going back to the intro of this episode, people think we're being way too hard on Melanie Gibb. I think that it's safe to say that the camps are evenly split at this point.
Yeah.
But I mean, she's a liar. And I think that if you side by side the Nate Eaton and, all of those and, other statements that she's made publicly, I think that we have made a pretty decent case for her being full of it, to be honest.
I think so too. And I think, kind of just to summarize this a little bit, how I see it, Lori wasn't suddenly a bad person once Charles was murdered. This was something that Melanie was in the passenger seat on this entire ride the whole time. She knew who Lori was. She saw a lot of this stuff. And not just Melanie. Okay, I know it seems like I pick on her, and that's just fun for me. But like, in general, I genuinely see Chad, Lori, Zulema, Melanie Gibb, Melanie Boudreau, Alex, every single person. Did I say Julie Rowe? Throw Julie Rowe in there. I see everyone in these groups, these really intense groups, these cults, or as Melanie would say, these really great friends. I see them as religious terrorists. I think these are extremists. And to look at Melanie Gibb now and be like, well, thank goodness we have her. And, I'm so glad she came forward and she said this and that and the other. She was affiliated with religious terrorists for a very long time. She was privy to a lot of information. And I want you guys just to think about that. Like, are you biased because it's this sweet woman with blonde hair and a coral cardigan batting her eyes and fondling some grapes? Because if it were any other religion, I think you'd probably be a little bit more harsh.
Completely.
These are terrorists. And I think we need to really look at it as that and see these beliefs. People died because of these belief systems. And Melanie coming out a couple months later and then disavowing it, it doesn't change the damage that was done or could have been prevented.
Yeah.
They're all terrible people.
You can't go balls to the wall of religious terrorism, zombies, all of this. Her statements that she's made. Chad's a great guy. Like, after she knows that he's killed children, that he killed his wife, she knew about Tammy.
And keep in mind, too, Nate Eaton even pushed back on that. He didn't push much on that interview, but he even pushed back. He was like, still? You still feel that way?
Yeah, he had her clarify it. I feel like Melanie Gibb is always going to have that question mark over her head of, like, how involved was she and what are her intentions and motivations going forward? Like, why is she doing this? Mm-hmm. Is she saving her own ass? I feel like she was cornered and she got caught. Now, whether that was law enforcement or just the fear of Alex Cox calling her back, supposedly, and saying, I'm worried about your testimony. I think that was the precipitating factor to her even discussing this with police, was her getting in trouble or being murdered herself, because people all around them started dropping like flies. So, yeah.
Yeah.
But in like you say, though, either way, she and everybody else involved, they are religious terrorists.
Yeah. So I'm hoping saying this is going to help kind of bring some unity here of, like, it's not this, we're team Melanie Gibb or we're team not. It's like, guys, like, we can all agree here that being friends with Lori Vallow or Chad Daybell, that's not something to be proud of. And she was proud of that, expressing love, knowing full well these calls have shown she kind of knew what was going on. Mm-hmm. Maybe didn't know exact, but, like, there was an inkling. And she still chose to look at a camera and say, I love them. This is, she described them. This is like a family. It's hard to watch that and not instantly think of radical terrorists. And hopefully we can all at least agree, everyone who sat back and did nothing or sat back and knew this stuff, they're just as guilty. No, okay, not exactly, but they hold some responsibility in the crimes that were committed.
No, I completely agree with you. So I guess that's it, guys. What do you think? Have you listened to the call? Take the time. Listen to both calls. Rewatch the Nate Eaton interview. I've rewatched, probably since the beginning of this case, the Nate Eaton interview like 3 or 4 times. I think that now, after the Shari Dowdle call, I think the starkness, like the difference between Melanie Gibb, like the version 1 and 2.0, is very, very, very clear.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's it for this episode, guys. What do you think? Did these 2 interviews change your opinion of Melanie Gibb? Do you think that she was involved in some sort of nefariousness with the group? Do you still think that she is just gullible, had no idea what she was involved with? We want to know what you think. What do you think about Melanie Gibb? And this, unless something heinously crazy comes out for the rest of this week, guys, this is our Lori Vallow episode for the week. I'll be moving on to another true crime case that is, I think you're going to like it. That'll be coming out on Thursday, and then I have a true crime headline update coming out later this week as well. This week, the last 2 weeks actually, see, I wanted to do a headlines update last week, but unfortunately the Lori Vallow case, again, took over everything. A lot has actually been happening in a lot of random different cases that I've been personally following, and so I really can't wait to talk about that. So that will be coming out later this week. That is it. Again, you can find us at WeSawTheDevil.com. We Saw the Devil across all social media. If you want to get to know us on a more personal level, get some cool merch and different things by supporting the show, check out our Patreon at patreon.com/WeSawTheDevil. And as always, please take a moment to leave a 5-star review. Until next crime.